What if the most anticipated anime adaptation of the decade is about to completely change how the world sees One Piece? Not just for casual fans, but for people who have read every single chapter, tracked every theory, and have strong opinions about who should be cast as Crocodile. Netflix One Piece Season 2 is coming, and the details surrounding it are more interesting than most people realize. Welcome to One Piece Uncovered. Let's be real for a second. Season 1 of the Netflix live-action surprised a lot of people. Critics expected it to fail the way most anime adaptations do. Instead, it became one of the most watched Netflix original series of 2023. The numbers were strong enough that Netflix renewed it almost immediately. That kind of momentum is rare, and it tells us something important. The world is now paying attention to One Piece in a way it never has before outside of Japan. Season 2 is not just another batch of episodes. It is adapting the Alabasta arc, and if you know anything about One Piece, you know what that means. Alabasta is where the story stops being a fun pirate adventure and becomes something much deeper. It is the arc where Oda first shows you the true weight of the world, the corruption, the sacrifice. The idea that doing the right thing can cost everything. This is also the arc that introduces one of the most debated characters in the entire series, Sir Crocodile. And the casting choice for that role is something the community has been talking about non-stop. Here is something that does not get said enough. The Alabasta arc is actually one of the most cinematic stories Oda has ever written. It has a desert kingdom on the edge of civil war. It has a villain who has been operating in the shadows for years, manipulating an entire country without anyone suspecting him. It has a princess who has been carrying the weight of her nation on her shoulders alone. And it has a moment at the end that made millions of readers put down the manga and just sit there for a minute. The live-action format works for this arc in a way it did not always work for East Blue. The scope is bigger. The stakes are real. The emotional beats are slower and more grounded. When Vivi finally breaks down and begs for her people to stop fighting, that scene is going to hit completely different when you see real actors delivering it on screen. The production team has already confirmed that the Straw Hats will be traveling to a fully built-out Alabasta. Practical sets, real desert locations, and a much larger budget than Season 1. If they get the tone right, this could be the arc that fully converts the skeptics. Stay with me here because this is where it gets interesting. The confirmed casting for Season 2 includes Lera Abova as Nico Robin. This choice has drawn a lot of attention and some debate. Robin is one of the most complex characters in the entire series. She carries decades of trauma. She speaks through silence as much as she does through words. Getting that right in a live-action format is not easy. But Abova has the kind of quiet intensity that the role demands, and a lot of fans who were skeptical have come around after seeing the early production photos. Crocodile has been confirmed to be played by Sendhil Ramamurthy. This is a casting choice that has the community split. Crocodile is cold, calculating, and carries a sense of power that should feel suffocating. Ramamurthy is a strong actor, and his physicality works for the role. But fans are watching closely to see whether the writing will give him the room to breathe as a villain. Crocodile is not someone who raises his voice. He does not need to. The script has to understand that. Smoker is also confirmed, played by Mathieu Amalric. And that choice makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Smoker is stubborn, obsessive, and driven by a sense of justice that clashes directly with the Straw Hats. Amalric plays that kind of controlled intensity naturally. What all of these casting choices tell us is that the production team is thinking carefully about character depth. This is not a show trying to coast on spectacle. They want the characters to feel like real people. Now, before we get into the theory side of things, I want to flag something that almost nobody is talking about yet. There is a detail buried in what we know about Season 2 that could be a major hint about how far ahead the showrunners are planning. And it connects directly to one of the biggest mysteries in the entire One Piece story. We are getting to that in just a moment. Here is what a lot of casual viewers are going to miss when they watch Season 2. Alabasta is not just a standalone story, it is the foundation for everything that comes later. Every major thread that the later arcs pull from has its roots here. The introduction of the warlord system. The first real look at how the world government operates behind the scenes. The idea that powerful figures can be hiding in plain sight under a mask of legitimacy. All of that starts in Alabasta. And then there is Robin. The moment Robin joins the crew at the end of this arc is one of the most layered moments in the manga. On the surface, it looks like a new crew member joining. But what Oda was actually doing was planting a seed that would not fully bloom until Enies Lobby. The live action has a real opportunity to plant that same seed in a way that lands differently for audiences who are not familiar with where Robin's story goes. If the showrunners are smart, and based on Season 1 it looks like they are, they will use small moments throughout Season 2 to foreshadow Robin's backstory. A glance here. A line of dialogue there. Things that feel like character texture on first watch but hit like a truck on rewatch after you have seen Enies Lobby. Here is the theory that the community has been quietly building. The creative team behind the Netflix adaptation has had direct conversations with Eiichiro Oda. That has been publicly confirmed. Oda is involved as a producer and has given the team guidance on what to protect and what to change. The question is, how much has Oda told them? If Oda has given them insight into the endgame of the story, then every creative decision in Season 2 is potentially more meaningful than it looks. Think about the way Robin is being set up. Think about the fact that Smoker is being introduced this early. Think about what the live-action version of Baroque works could tell us about how the showrunners understand the deeper politics of the One Piece world. Some fans are pointing out that certain background elements in the Season 1 production design contain details that should not have been there based on where the story was at that point in the timeline. Small things, but the kind of small things that suggest someone with deep knowledge of the story was consulting on set design and world building from the very beginning. If Oda has trusted this team with the ending, or even just the direction, then Season 2 might be dropping clues that we will not fully understand until we are much further into the series. And that is an exciting thought. Netflix One Piece Season 2 is not just an adaptation, it is a translation of one of the greatest stories ever told into a format that could bring millions of new people into the world of One Piece. If they get Alabasta right, they will have proven that live-action anime can work at the highest level. And based on everything we know, they are taking it seriously. The casting is thoughtful, the arc they chose is genuinely great source material, and the involvement of Oda himself means there is a layer of authenticity here that most adaptations never get. The real question is not whether Season 2 will be good. The real question is whether it will be brave enough to commit to the emotional depth that makes Alabasta unforgettable in the first place. If you have been sleeping on the Netflix adaptation, now is the time to pay attention. If this video gave you something to think about, drop a like and subscribe to One Piece Uncovered. We go deeper than anyone else on the lore, the theories, and everything hiding in plain sight. And leave a comment answering this. Do you think the Netflix live-action team knows how One Piece ends? And if they do, what details from Season 2 do you think will end up being foreshadowing we did not see coming?